screen and we'll get started. So first up, a little intro from Andrea.
Hey, everybody. Nice to see you all, or sort of see you all. Um, just a couple of things, mostly thank yous. I want to say thank you to Christopher, first and foremost, for being amazing and leading the IALD in a very forward, progressive way. It's been a really good year, and I'm excited for you all to hear about all the things that we're doing. Next, to also acknowledge Carla, our incoming president. She is going to be amazing. And Carla, why don't you say just a quick hello?
Of course. Hello to everybody. I'm looking really forward to the next and the year after. I think Andrea achieved a lot in the last 2 years, so big footsteps. I have to step in, and but I think there's a lot of things to do, and I'm looking forward for the support of the members. Thank you.
Fantastic. I don't see Brandon on the call, but just you should know how hard Brandon also has been working as treasurer for the association, and he keeps the ship very well aware of what our numbers are and does a great job of supporting Christopher and membership and the association. So thank you, Brandon, even though you don't hear me at the moment. And of course, thank you to the IALD staff, who always does an amazing job and keeps everybody out of trouble. So thank you to all of them. And then finally, thank you to you all for being on this call. I know, we're all busy, especially this time of year. It's kind of a nightmare. And so, you being on this just shows your passion for the association and for the profession. So, I really appreciate seeing you all and you giving your time. So I think that's enough out of me. On we go.
Awesome. So we've put together a little slide deck which just covers some of the work that we've done this year, some of the things that we're going to be doing next year. It's not necessarily including everything, but hopefully is the start of a dialogue and kind of gives you some idea of what we've been doing. So I thought I'd start with a little membership update. So on the left-hand side, you can see our overall membership numbers from 2012 right through to 2025. That 25 number was year to date 2 weeks ago, I think, but that has actually gone up since then. So we're now at an acquisition rate for this year at over 14%. So the top right-hand side, you can see what our retention number was. That's the yellow bars, and then the orange is what the acquisition rate, the rate at which we acquired new members. And so for the first time, really, in IALD's history, growth has been a primary focus for the organization. And so we made changes to the bylaws. I can see that Brandon's trying to get in. We made changes to the bylaws so that we removed some of those barriers for people to participate. We knew that that potentially would lead to some attrition, which I think is really what you can see in the slight drop in the acquisition rate. It's never an exact science because you can ask people why they left, but that's not necessarily like they either don't answer or they have different reasons. Some people left the industry because they were retiring, etc. So you can't make necessarily a direct correlation between those two things or connection between those two things, but that's kind of our thinking behind it. And then just below that, you can see the split between the different membership categories. So professional and design still are like largest membership categories, and member has got slightly bigger because that now combines the young professionals as well as the what were affiliates essentially before. So that category has grown quite well this year. Like there's definitely been a lot of interest in joining that from people who are typically not included in our membership before. And then looking at the financial performance, so this goes back from 2018. So you can see revenue and expenses in the bar portion, and then our reserve balance as the trend line above, or the line above. You can see that we have done okay in 2025. We're probably just on the edge of break even. That's in terms of our underlying surplus and deficit figure. Our reserve investments have done well for us this year. You can see that they've been ticking up pretty much since 2021. So that interest that they have earned or generated has helped with keeping us in the sort of break even, maybe a mild surplus, but not a huge amount. Next year, we expect that to go down slightly because we're going to be investing in some more things. So we are likely to need to draw on some of those reserves as we have moved out of a kind of a conservation mindset, which was really preserve the most amount of resources, allow the reserves to grow. That growth has helped fund and keep us out of deficit. But the trade-off to that has been that we've been sorting things out structurally, but some of the programs that we want to develop have not moved as quickly as we want to. So to touch on some of those things, just to sort of tie those two bits of information together, Learn, our online learning platform, probably has not advanced as quickly as we would have liked this year. But the trade-off has been that we've conserved resources and they've helped us break even. So for the last couple of years since the pandemic, it really has been a process of trying to conserve resources and do things with as few people as possible and with as few resources as possible. We're now moving into a stage where that isn't going to work for us long term, because all you'll do is kind of stretch out the amount of time it is before you run out of money, but you're not really generating new sources of revenue. So we're starting to change that, and you'll see as we go through the presentation in 26, we're putting some investments there. But that means that whilst Learn has started, we actually just took on a staff person, an education manager. So Casey, who joined us a couple of weeks ago, will really be pushing that forward and be a dedicated full-time staff person for developing education. We also completed and distributed the compensation and workforce study. That hasn't been completed in a number of years, but it's giving really good insight into both the salary levels and also for the first time a more global perspective. Previously, that had only been available in the US, but we managed to get enough data this year to provide insight into what happens in other regions. We've been working on policy, so we've been working with Dark Sky International on policy issues with them, as well as the European technical committees. So really trying to make sure that we're getting our voice heard in some of those important forums around what people are doing with legislation, but also in regulation and standard setting. Sorry, Siri is trying to join in. We also have been collaborating with the Greenlight Alliance on life cycle assessment and their incubator, which is just about coming to a conclusion. So we'll be hosting that content going forward, and I'll talk a little bit more about some of that as we get to what we're doing in 2026. We've been building and developing new relationships with other allied organizations. So trying to find ways in which we can connect with others who share similar views to us. So that's people like NEMA. We were invited to speak at their annual conference this year, specifically around the role of lighting design within the context of North American manufacturing. But we've also been to Brussels this year and worked with Lighting Europe and some of the other European associations to really understand how we can align the requirements that are set down in the regulatory and legislative frameworks, along with what we really want to advocate for, which is good quality lighting design and not something that's driven just entirely by the numbers. And in that vein as well, we also released an update to the Light and Wellbeing white paper, which has then been an opportunity to collaborate with other groups such as the Good Light Group, who are focusing on the impacts of light and human health, or light on human health. And so some of those relationships are now starting to develop and turn into new work streams, other things that we can do where we can work together to make our voice stronger so that we're representing as many people as possible. It's also been a big year for certified lighting designer. So the CLD Commission recognized equivalence with the IALD professional membership application and review process. So professional members of the IALD have a streamlined path into certified lighting designer. And they've also seen a number of applications increase for those who are not professional IALD members, but are going through the application process to become certified. So we're now coming up to 400 members. It's long been said that the critical mass needs to be at least 600. So we do have some way to go on that, but it is great to see that program starting to develop. And as we bring some new people onto our team, like Casey, who's going to be doing education, she will also be looking after certification and really starting to try and tie some of those threads together so that we have a more coherent view around certification and education as an association. We introduced 5 new fellows to the College of Fellows this year. Teal, Jill, Aaron, Ron, and Monica were recognised at Enlighten Americas for their contributions to the profession and the association. And we also recognised Randy Burkett for his Lifetime Achievement Award, which was presented also at Enlighten Americas. We know that these people have dedicated a lot of time to both the profession and the IALD itself. And so being able to recognize those people is really something very special and something that we should focus on how we look at recognition in general in 2026, something that I will touch on later. So in terms of events and activities, we had over 2,000 attendees and participants at local events in over 17 countries. That's over 90 local events and then 10 in-person or large-scale global events. They include Enlighten Europe, which happened in Spain, in Valencia, Enlighten Americas, which was in Tucson. We had Las Vegas Light Fair this year, and also the International Lighting Design Awards returned in person away from the conference, getting ready for our appearance next year at Light and Building. So a busy year connecting with people locally, and it's really important that we recognize all of those who have helped achieve that. So we can't do that without the work of our region and chapter coordinators. I think it's important to recognize that many of these people are, or all of these people are giving their time when we know how compressed it is and how precious time is to people both inside and outside of work. So a huge thank you to them for their work and what they've contributed. Also, thank you to our board, the membership committee, and the LIRC, Lighting Industry Resource Council. Again, another group of professionals giving their time to the association in the bid to advance the profession, which is something that we can't do without their expertise and their knowledge. And so looking to 2026, we have 2 confirmed conferences. That's Enlighten Europe, which will be in Paris in June, and Enlighten Americas, which will be in Austin, Texas in October. We're also just in the final stages of confirming Enlighten Asia, which will return probably in November in Singapore next year. Final dates to be confirmed, but really trying to expand that global reach to make it easier to access the conference both in person. So if you're located in the APAC region, that will allow you to get closer to a conference. And for those that are not able to participate in person, those conferences or the conference content is recorded and made available by the Learn platform. All of the conferences since 22, I believe, are now up on there, other than the one that we just had. So if you're an IALD member, you have free access to those. You can access those via the IALD website by going to Learn and then over to the platform. I mentioned earlier that Lighting Design Awards, for the first time in 43 years, the International Lighting Design Awards will go outside of North America for its presentation. We'll be locating our awards at Light and Building in Frankfurt in March. So if you're going to be there, please get a ticket and come and join us for what is going to be a really fantastic celebration and what will hopefully be a nice global gathering, because that event really does pull a lot of people from around the world. So we're very excited to be taking it outside North America for the first time, and hopefully get into a cadence where we can switch between Light and Building in Frankfurt and then Light Fair in the US in alternate years. And then just thinking about some of the 26 projects that we have coming up, we know that recognition is something that we need to relook at. I know that there are some people in the call today who we've had this discussion, but really we're calling it recognition rather than just awards, because we also know that there are other things that we want to recognize. So there will be a group next year put together to look at how we recognize success in our profession and promote that out beyond our own borders. We know that we need to increase our education offering, so we've started to invest there by bringing on new staff members and reinforcing the team around how we start to put together education programs, and that's both internal, so our internal IALD audience, but also how do we provide education for those who are not in our profession. Perhaps they're in allied industries who want some level of lighting education that we can provide them. We want to continue creating new relationships, so finding those relationships and partnerships of value so that we can really make our voice heard in other spheres. And often that is around having something to talk about. So when we start to look at policy positions and providing materials or resources for people, that's where we really get the opportunity to build out those new relationships. We need to promote our profession. So again, I know there are some people on this call who are already involved in that group, but really looking at how do we get our message out to a broader audience and what do we want to say to them when we get there, I think is really going to be important for us as we start to think about growing both our number of members, but also growing our audience that we're speaking to. I mentioned life cycle assessment, and this kind of ties into both of those things. We will be hosting the first industry average environmental product declarations. These will essentially become the kind of industry benchmarks, because at the moment we don't have any benchmarks around embedded carbon for lighting products. But that's also a great way to go out and talk to people, talk to architects, talk to engineers, talk to other people in the built environment about why lighting is important. We can then expand upon that work and talk about operational carbon, and using those kind of subjects like dark sky or sustainability is a really great way of engaging with audiences that are also involved in the built environment that we want to be in front of. Rather than just saying we think lighting is important, which we all know lighting is important, but to an external audience, going with a subject or an issue can be a really effective way of furthering that discussion and dialogue with them. We also have a project to reorganize and look at our branding. We know that our visual appearance is not as cohesive as it should be. And there's a lot of, if we want to be taken seriously as a design organization, we should have a coherent brand approach and the way in which we present ourselves to that external audience. We need to continue to develop public policy. We need to develop policy positions on things so that can help guide us as we move forward around particular issues. It can also help us develop tools and materials for both members and non-members. And that goes into also member resources. We know that as demographics are changing in membership, people are looking for often more transactional relationships in that they pay a fee for membership and get something back. And whilst some of the stuff that we're doing is really important, it doesn't get that transactional benefit to particularly to younger members who are looking for that. So that's something that we need to focus on in order to be able to grow and retain members as we look at attracting younger members to the organization. And finally, just to close out on that is all of these things, we're a small staff and we want to do as much as we can, but we're not subject matter experts. And so we're always looking for people to help us. So it's great that you're all here, and I can see a lot of volunteers in the list of people who are here. We would love you to also entice some other people to join us. We need help for public policy. We need help in understanding what is regulation in different parts of the world. How should we respond? We need people who are experts or have deep knowledge of particular subjects so that we know who that we can call on to ask for advice, or if there are particular issues that come up. We're always looking for people to be able to go to events for us and to speak. We have all of the usual things like awards judging and conference content moderating. And our profession promotion group, which is a new group, have essentially 4 work streams at the moment around business practice, promotional materials, external education and thought leadership. We would love to get some more people into that group and to bring a broader range of geographic voices, and probably also different levels of where you are in the profession, how experienced you are, because that I think will be really helpful in giving some diversity to the group and really also supporting the really huge tasks that they are taking on. So hopefully that gives you like an overview